plan. Dave Lockran right here. Ben Rosser right next to me. How you doing? We got a good show for you today, and you know what? We got 13 games. Ben, no more bye weeks, no more Thanksgiving games to take away the big Sundays. We got 13 games on a Sunday. I think it's got to be for the first time. Maybe not. Maybe I guess we had it earlier this year before the bye weeks. Maybe weeks 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it's been a while though. I mean, we've been used to these 10, 11, 13. It's a lot of them. So we're going to do our best. We're going to breeze through some of the bad ones and have some fun. I think it's a great slate though overall.
So do I. I also think I prefer slates with 10, 11 games. But what's it matter? I guess at this rate, some of these games are terrible anyway. So let's just jump right into it. We'll go over injuries. Listen, if I throw it out there and I miss some, just hit me with the injury in case we miss it. Just because there are a decent amount of injuries on this slate that need to be touched on. And then again, of course, with the Kareem Hunt deal and with Spencer Ware, we understand what's going on there. We'll get into that. But yeah, I'm not your moral compass, so you can ask me any questions you want about Spencer Ware.
Yeah, no, we'll be talking from a DFS perspective because that's what the show is, obviously.
That's what our job is. Exactly. Yep. Doesn't make us any worse of people. It just means that we're doing what we're asked to do. All right. Atlanta and Baltimore. Here we go, Ben. You've got Matt Ryan and his Falcons at home against the Ravens team that surprisingly coughed up a decent amount of points to Oakland last week, 17. That's a lot for Oakland. But here we go. You got Lamar Jackson starting this game once again. No Joe Flacco. And it looks like they're going to pound the rock. And we have Gus Edwards expected to play as well. He's going to play. But Alex Collins, the surprise move to the IR. Is this the Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson show once again?
I don't think so. So yeah, we're getting 13 games. We jump right into one that I probably am a little more radical on. I'm extremely high on the Falcons in this game. I think they roll them in the dome.
Hey, by the way, you were on our Thursday night showdown show. You said Cowboys defense. Very nice. Now I had the Saints defense. Saints defense also had 7 sacks. They had a good game. But your pick was a lot more of a hot take, and it definitely deserves more credit than mine. So go ahead.
Yeah, Cowboys won that game for me. Not that I like the Cowboys, but it was nice. Anyway, I really like the Falcons in the spot. I think they move the ball. I know Baltimore's a good defense. So first on the Baltimore side, yeah, Lamar Jackson, we know rushing upside. I'm basing it obviously on what I think. And I think that if Baltimore falls behind, as crazy as it sounds, Ty Montgomery is somewhat interesting. Not saying jam him in by any stretch, but I do have a lot of teams that are Matt Ryan, Julio, and maybe another weapon. And on a few of them, I did run it back with a guy like Ty Montgomery. I don't have much interest in the Ravens pass catchers just because Lamar Jackson, it's tough. He's just not a thrower. He's doing it mostly with his legs. So I attacked Atlanta's side, and I don't have much on the Ravens.
He's not throwing downfield whatsoever. So what's the point of even taking the risk, right? Like John Brown has 2 catches on 8 targets since Lamar Jackson took over, right? It doesn't make much sense. I mean, yeah, like Willie Snead, maybe, but he didn't even have a single target last game after being targeted 8 times the game before. I get that Atlanta's secondary, their defense is bad. They're trying to get healthy, but they're still in trouble. I don't see it here. But so let me just ask you this though: with Gus Edwards, you don't see any appeal here in Edwards today?
I'm not opposed to it by any stretch, but I do worry a little bit if the Falcons get out to an early lead, how long will they stick with him kind of in the backfield? Doesn't show much in the passing game. I think if the Ravens can hang in this game, Gus Edwards is going to get volume, and even though Atlanta's defense is getting a little healthier, they're still not certainly a top-tier unit.
I think what surprises me, and I don't want to stay too long on this because we do have to get to every game, what surprises me a little bit is that you expect Atlanta to potentially run away with this.
Yeah, I really think that they move the ball, and I mean the spread is 2.5 points. I bet the Falcons. Today, I do like the Falcons in this spot at home. So that's what I'm basing, that narrative of this game on, is that Matt Ryan and Julio and guys like that kind of force Baltimore's offense into a particular game plan.
All right. I do think if it stays close, you're going to see exactly what we've seen with the Ravens for the past 2 weeks. Yep. Lamar Jackson running a lot, Gus Edwards running a lot, and if that's the way that the listener or the viewers see it going down, then you're probably going to want to have some of Gus Edwards because he's still affordable. He's not crazily overpriced, and it was that ankle injury that it looks like he's going to be okay. So let me just, before we move on. And of course, live before locks coming up after this, so they're gonna hit on everything we missed. With Atlanta, who are you prioritizing here if you really like them that much?
Julio and Matt Ryan, and then you can sprinkle in. We've talked Hooper, Ridley, Sanu, Tevin Coleman. I think they're all very risky. I could make a case for any of them if you want to splash, but I didn't force those guys into my lineups.
All right, that's fair. Let's go on to a game that has a little bit more overall appeal. That is Tampa Bay and Carolina. Now, not interestingly, this game has a 52.5 point total. It was actually 54.5 points yesterday, Ben, just to throw that out there. It has come down by 2 points since yesterday. However, and also Carolina was a 3-point favorite. They're now 3.5 point favorites. The total has come down. It's still the third highest total on the slate, however, and you've got just a ridiculous amount of potential in this game, whether it be Newton or Winston or McCaffrey or Evans or Moore or Olsen, even though I'm not huge on Olsen. But I think where I want to start with is when it comes to Devin Funchess, he's expected to play but should be limited, which means that DJ Moore is likely still the number one guy here and probably would still be the number one receiver on this team, even if Funchess was at full capacity. What do you make of DJ Moore, whose salary has come up, but has looked really impressive over the past several weeks?
Yeah, he's a good player. I'm still a little skeptical, only in the sense that Carolina has a lot of mouths to feed, and they have a lot of polarizing guys in the sense that Cam can take it on himself. McCaffrey, we've seen. Now Funchess may be in. And I'm a little higher on Olsen than you. Okay. So what I did was I had McCaffrey in cash, and that may allow me to come in a little underweight in tournaments. And that's mostly due to the field, I think, prioritizing him. It's not that I don't think he's a great play. He is objectively in a great spot. But there's other guys, we'll get to Gurley, that I'm kind of interested in. So I do have those guys in cash, no problem. But I didn't really attack the receiving game outside of a little Olsen.
Okay. With DJ Moore, it's not that I don't like him. I like this guy a lot, like quite a bit. I think he was the best receiver in this draft in terms of future outlook. However, you did get a good price hike on him. I mean, he is 64 on FanDuel now. He is up to 56 on DraftKings. That's not to say he's unplayable, because we saw that he does have quite a high ceiling. But I also don't think he's a necessity. What it comes down to, Ben, for me at least, is that looking at, and honestly, even with the Tampa Bay side of the ball, I don't like playing Tampa Bay receivers most days because it's roulette. And it's not to say one of these guys can't do it. We don't have Deshaun Jackson, so that does change things. But like whether it's Evans or Mike or Adam Humphries or Godwin finds the end zone, or it's Cameron Brate, who, as I pointed out last week, and I ended up we were right.
Yep.
I said if he doesn't score, he's worthless, and if he scores, he gets you 10 or 11 fantasy points. I was perfectly fine with that fade. He did score, and then he had like 3 for 20 or something. So hardly a game that I feel like hardly a play I feel like we messed up on, but that's what happens. He'll score, and he did nothing for the rest of the game. So I'm still not on Cameron Brate here now, especially now that his price has come up. What are you doing with the Tampa Bay side of the ball?
Yeah, I think you summed it up well. Deshaun Jackson, obviously OJ Howard, both gone. It creates a little more in terms of, these guys should get some extra targets, but it's still very difficult. Mike Evans is priced in a different tier, and I prioritized other expensive guys, Julio to be specific, over him. I wanted to split Godwin and Humphries. Right now, I have a lot more Godwin, and it's for no other reason than I just kept landing on his price. I'm going to have to manually adjust that after this show. I don't want a massive amount because I think it is a roulette situation with these guys. I don't mind mixing and matching, especially when I'm, if I have some Cam and Olsen running it back with a guy like that. but I don't think you can confidently jam in one of the Bucs skill guys and say this is where the production will be going today.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and it's something that's kind of confounded me all season long.
Yep.
By the way, it's saying 16-mile-per-hour winds, right? With some rain and some. It doesn't look like it's going to rain now, though. And I'm seeing a lot of people saying that the wind's really not an issue. So
Yeah,
this isn't. I'm not taking weather into consideration here.
No, me neither. And I'm with you on Brait. If you want to play him, you want him to find the end zone. Of course, you're going to need that because the targets have consistently underwhelmed. And that's the risk you run with him.
Humphreys is interesting. I have trouble believing that each game he's gonna catch every pass that is thrown his way and score. Like I just feel like negative touchdown regression is coming down the pike for Brait or for Humphreys, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, he's hitting ceilings more often than not. Can that continue? Of course, but at some point, he's gonna regress and not make the most of them. The price still gives him some wiggle room, but I definitely have Godwin. Like I said, I think he's in an interesting spot today, and it's a good game to attack overall.
It is. It's a great game to attack. Points are going to be scored. You just don't know where they're going to come from.
That's the tricky part. Yep.
Yeah, outside of McCaffrey and Winston, right? Like those guys. And I think Winston's I like Winston. I think he's still cheap. And he's the type of guy that could throw 3 interceptions and still give you 30 fantasy points so long as he doesn't get benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Before we move on, what are your thoughts on the quarterback position on both sides here? Do you have a preference? Are you prioritizing either one of these QBs?
Cam is my cash QB. I think he's just in the most optimal spot on the entire slate. He can always run, but there's so many games and there's so many quarterbacks that I didn't make it a priority to get either of these guys. I have healthy shares of both, but there's Matt Ryan. We'll get to a couple other guys that I know I'm going to have leverage against the field on.
Right. Yeah, I have a couple of them as well.
Okay.
So let's keep moving. Hey, and by the way, because we only have an hour on this show and there's a lot of games, you can hit us up on Twitter. Our handles are right under our name or under our faces, and you can hit us up in Slack over on Awesemo Slack in the NFL channel leading up to lock. And if you aren't in there, if you wanted a free week of Awesemo content, head over to awesemo.com. Use the game plan promo code, all one word, game plan show, all one word. When you click join now on the homepage, select your plan. And when you go to check out, you'll put in game plan show in the coupon code and you'll get a free week and you'll be able to check it out, ask us questions, check out all the content behind paywall, everything free for a week, free of charge. So go ahead and do that if you'd like and check it out. And I think you'll like it. I think you'll hang around. But yeah, you can always hit us. You can always pepper us with some questions after the show if we can't, get to everything in depth as we would like to, because we would like to, but sometimes we can't. All right, Chicago and the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants. Ben, I'll tell you what. I think even though you're not hearing a ton about Barkley himself because he's a really composed and mature kid for his age, I think this might be a squeaky wheel gets the grease type deal. We've seen it with Odell Beckham in the past. Barkley touched the ball only 4 times in the second half last week against the Eagles. They lost as a result, and now they are coming in to a home game with the Bears where they are 4-point dogs, no Mitchell Trubisky, 43.5-point total. I've got to ask you, because my assumption is that because of this matchup, his ownership will be down. Where are you at on Barkley, who has been every bit as explosive, every bit as dynamic, and every bit as impressive as we thought he'd be coming out of the draft?
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. He's an interesting play because I feel like when he has a soft matchup, he's incredible. He finds the end zone multiple times and he gets there. When they have a brutal matchup, Eli is under so much pressure that he gets 12 midget targets and they add up so quickly that it's actually not, a huge deal for him. So the price bump from the Bears defense, I'm not overly worried about it. Having said that, I don't have a ton, and I don't think you need a ton this week to get leverage. There's so many guys up there, whether it's Gurley, whether it's, we talked about McCaffrey, its ownership is going to be somewhat flattened on a 13-game slate. So if you have room and you want to take him, I don't mind that. He's at home, but I don't think he's going to be finding the end zone a ton against. The Bears defense is one of the better units, of course.
It is. There's no question. he's just so involved, and I think he's going to be ridiculously heavily involved here. I could be wrong, but I don't know how the Bears' run defense is also very good. I guess what it comes down to for me is that because Barkley on DraftKings, where we see a lot of this dynamic pricing based on matchup, right?
Yep.
Where he is priced $800 or $900 less than McCaffrey, $1,400 cheaper than Gurley. I think there is some justification to getting some exposure to him in tournaments solely due to the fact that, as you pointed out, even if he only racks up 70 yards on the ground, he could give you 100 yards through the air with 11 receptions and a touchdown. So he's still capable of putting up big numbers here. And as we saw last week, hell, LeGarrette Blount, yes, LeGarrette Blount put two ground touchdowns in on 4.6 yards per carry against the Bears. So it's not like they're unstoppable. They're just good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, him and Odell to me are in the same bucket. It's not an ideal matchup, but their price and their ownership are probably going to be down there a little relative to what we see sometimes. So worthwhile plays for sure. Other than that, in this game, I have some Tariq Cohen on the other side. You know, we saw with Chase Daniel, those wheel routes. I think that continues. Jordan Howard seems borderline phased out. Smoke my Zell. I didn't know that person existed. He may make those touches. So Tariq Cohen's really the only guy I have much interest in on the Bears side.
All right. Yeah, I do again think that the coaching staff to get some heat off of them, and I'm not to say a narrative play, but to some extent it is. You wouldn't believe the amount of heat they took. Well, you're a New York guy. They took for not playing Barkley in the second half last.
Oh yeah, him and Odell both seemed frustrated at that game. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, even though Odell did see 9 targets, it's not like the guy, he cries about everything.
Yeah, exactly. He's a perpetual squeaky wheel.
Exactly. See, yeah. And Barkley isn't. Barkley instead decided to go onto a talk show and talk about his what's it, like, my shoes, my mission or whatever it is, where he's like, trying to support this rare disease and everything. Like, he's just a good guy, man. So I'm rooting for him. And obviously, from a fantasy standpoint, nobody cares about that. But I do think at a price point that is down below 8K, given his monster ceiling, yes, I will have some Barkley today, despite the difficult matchup. Sometimes matchup is overshadowed by heavy volume and pure talent. And I think we could see some of that today. Now, on the other side of this game, though, Ben, I want to know if you have any interest in Chicago, because you have Jordan Howard, who last week saw only 7 carries in a game that would have been scripted for him to get the rock a lot, right? No Trubisky, Chase Daniel at the helm, but no. Tariq Cohen, meanwhile, had only 3 attempts, but 8 targets, 7 receptions, which was an extension of the run game pretty much in itself. Where are you at here on the Chicago side of the ball?
Yeah, I don't have too much, to be honest. It's hard to trust Jordan Howard. Obviously, the Ware news put him even further behind in terms of punt running backs.
He's been terrible.
He's just been awful. Like, his only effective games is when he falls in the end zone a couple times.
Twice, yeah.
So I'm not even chasing that. Tariq Cohen's the guy I think, for me, piques the most interest. He can catch the ball. He's explosive. It seems like Chase Daniel and him had something going. They got him in space. Could have had a couple touchdowns on Thanksgiving, really, and he produced a good game. So he's in the mid-5s against this Giants defense. That's a guy I mixed and matched within my lineups.
Cohen's highly enticing to me for tournaments, and only because, once again, I think it's a scenario where they just use him as an extension of the run game. I don't think you're going to need Chase Daniel to consistently air the ball out in a game like this, right? I just don't see that being the case. Maybe you do, and if so, tell me, because we can talk about it.
Not at all.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And what does make sense is having someone like Cohen that you can dump it off in the flat, dump it off to him 3 yards downfield, and let him do the rest of the work. Yeah. Right?
That's the game plan here. I don't see why it wouldn't. Lean on the defense, easy throws for Chase Daniel, and get your playmakers in space.
Right. Exactly my thoughts as well. You know what? Maybe we'll be wrong. We've seen coaches get just go crazy and say, you know what, screw it. They think we're going to do this, so we're going to grab our backup quarterback and have him heave it 50 yards downfield 3 times to start the game. You see it. Doesn't always work, but you've seen it before. Anyway, you want to move on here?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, actually, one more. Do you have any interest in the Bears defense?
There's so many defenses that it's tough. Obviously, they're going to get some pressure. They're going to get some sacks. It's Eli. No problem there, but I mostly landed in the 2s in terms of my defense.
Okay, I'm with you on that. I do not have Bears defense either, solely because I think there are 2 players on the Giants that are very capable of making opposing defenses look bad, even if they're very good. All right, let's move it on here. Before we get to this stellar barn burner between the Dolphins and Bills, if you enjoy the show, if you enjoy the content, hit us with the thumbs up. It helps us greatly, and we greatly appreciate you. Also, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always know when our live streams are dropping. All right, Ben, Miami and Buffalo. Here it is, the game we've been waiting for. This is the one that I had marked on the calendar since the preseason. Cannot wait, my friend. A sexy 39.5 point total, a 3.5 point spread in favor of the Miami Dolphins. This is just a phenomenal game here. I don't know if I have more exposure to any game but this one.
Of course. Just stack it up and print today, right? That's the formula. Yeah, I mean, I actually do like disturbing games like this, but this is so ugly.
Yeah.
From a fantasy perspective, I really don't have much to say. I'm a Josh Allen fan. I love him. Not chasing that. I think he does enough to actually hurt Shady. He's running so much. It's very tough to go to McCoy. I get it if you want to do it.
Shady was a colossal disappointment last week.
Awful. That was really frustrating because I liked the Bills in that game. I thought they would win that game, and it was just Josh Allen doing amazing things. But on the other side, I don't even have much.
Sorry, real quick. He was in the optimal lineup, the optimal DraftKings lineup. You can actually go to You can go to the perfect lineup website, and Josh Allen was in the optimal DraftKings lineup last week.
Sorry, I mean, 99 yards rushing. That's a wrinkle. I've seen him a lot in college. I knew he was mobile. Didn't think we'd be seeing a lot of that, though, to be honest.
Pretty sure he lost the 100 on the kneel down.
Yeah. Oh, that's brutal. Imagine if that would have been. Oh, that could have been expensive kneel down.
I know.
But this is just a game. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody knows it's going to be ugly. Maybe a play here or there, but the Dolphins are so banged up in their wide receiving core. Kenny Stills is always a boom bust option, but it seems very, very risky to look there. I never get Kenyon Drake right. I'm not going to even speculate. Him and Gore, it's hard to predict those workloads. So not a game I have much of, if anything, at this point.
Yeah, Ring Rim in chat asked, is Drake a viable pivot off of Spencer Ware?
Well, you're going to get legitimately like 1/10 of the ownership.
Yeah.
And
that's it.
The only way I would say yes is that if you think that Buffalo can get there and they can go away from Gore, because Drake's going to need the passing work to get there. I don't see many ways where he gets enough volume or is effective enough on the ground to do much. But if you're saying, you know what, I'm going to take a 6% guy over a 45% guy, I can. It's hard to argue with that if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, it's tough. If there's one thing I think you and I can both admit is that we have no idea when Kenyon Drake is going to have a good game.
It's really not a guy I have a good pulse. I really do believe this. There are some players you just, for whatever reason, have a good pulse on. And Kenyon Drake is not one of them for me. I just have trouble projecting when he plays well. I'm never really on it.
Yeah, no, neither am I. You're right that we both have a few guys that you're on it. I also have zero pulse with LaShawn McCoy, but that's probably because he only has one good game all season.
Yeah, that's like I was gonna say with David Johnson, but he's just terrible, so it doesn't really matter. Shady, it's he's a guy traditionally prefer better at home. Not that this is good weather, of course, it's in Miami, but I don't really have much. I think it's an unnecessary risk.
So do I. Do you have anything else in this game that you'd like to discuss that we may not have touched on?
No, I think as much as I'm a Josh Allen guy, I don't think it's worthwhile to chase him. You're banking on rushing yards.
So any interest in the defenses here?
It's funny. After saying all that, not really, honestly, because I'm not sure how sloppy this game is either. I think it's just more of a very slow, methodical, ugly game. Not a ton of turnovers on either side either.
I think you're right. Tannehill does have some interceptions. He has fumbled a bunch. I think in 6 games he has 5 interceptions and 4 fumbles, 3 lost. If I'm going anywhere, it would be Buffalo's defense because they're just a better overall unit than Miami's. But I don't see either of them being necessities here. Although the Bills always have that low key chance of giving you a big defensive game when you least expect it. I think you'd agree there.
Yeah, the Bills, I mean, they are a decent unit, it's true, but there's so many defenses that you could go to, and they're one of them. But for me, there's a couple a little cheaper that I feel just a little better about.
I'll tell you this much: Galen Van Zant in our YouTube chat has 0 interest in playing this game.
Okay.
He would rather take possible death than play any of this Miami Buffalo. That's certainly an extreme take, fella. But you know what?
We respect that on the
I've heard crazier. Yeah. All right, Denver and Cincinnati. Let's keep it moving here. We got good viewers though, man. The YouTube chat makes you always get a couple of dudes that say, all right, guys, settle down. But for the most part, it is pretty enjoyable.
Oh, for sure.
Getting some alternative takes in chat that the good enough ones we shout out on the show all the time. That one was just ludicrous, which is just even better. So, all right, let's talk about Denver and Cincinnati. 44.5 point total. The Denver Broncos are are 4-point favorites, and this game is on the road. It's in Cincinnati. You have AJ Green back. I don't know what shape he's going to be in, but you don't have Andy Dalton. You have Jeff Driscoll. So I want to start with Cincinnati because Mixon's been a guy that you and I have really liked all season long, but I find this to be a very tough spot for him for a couple of reasons, Ben. The Broncos allowed 750 rushing yards, I think it was, between weeks 4 and 6. Since then, you look at their performances, the Denver run defense. They've allowed, against James Conner, they shut him down. 75 rushing yards to the entire team. 95 rushing yards to the entire Chargers team, Melvin Gordon and company. 98 to Houston. 49 to Kansas City, Kareem Hunt and co. David Johnson and Arizona, 69 rushing yards. The last 5 games against some very good running backs, they have stymied them. Sure, they've given up some production through the air, but I just don't know if Connor finds the room to run here. Cincinnati's offensive line is down to undrafted guys off the street at some points in some areas. I think Driscoll will have. I just think the pressure is going to kill them. The run blocking is going to struggle, and I don't know how much he's going to produce in the passing game with Bernard back. Even though Bernard only saw a target last week, that's still another body. Mixon concerns me here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Mixon guy in DFS. I play him a lot. This isn't. I still have a little interest because I do think that the way with Driscoll behind center, Mixon's going to get a boost in the passing game, even with Gio there. We saw that kind of last week. He didn't do much, but at the same time, he was racking up yards all over the place. So I don't think that that's out of the realm, but I'm a little concerned about the line. This is just a team right now that's in a free fall. AJ Green coming back should help, but I'm not looking to him or Boyd on the outside. Mixon's the one guy that I might take a stab with, but we've mentioned there's a lot of running backs up there. You can find $600 and go get Saquon. You can take a discount and go get Aaron Jones. There's a lot of options. So it's borderline an unnecessary risk with Mixon unless you think they can control the line of scrimmage. Have a bit, but not as much as I thought I would at the beginning of the week.
All right. We had a question in chat. What was the snap count difference between Jordan Howard and Terry Cohen last week? Going back a little bit here, but Cohen saw 22 snaps out of 58 potential offensive snaps. Jordan Howard saw 35. Yeah, it is kind of odd, but the difference is that Cohen actually was getting targeted on more snaps than Jordan Howard was, who was just in there doing nothing. A few pieces of news here. Devontae Parker, in case you care, which you probably don't, active. Marlon Mack with that concussion is playing. Kike Kute is active. Let's see. No Danny Amendola. Randall Cobb's active. No Joe Flacco as predicted. Chase Daniels starting. Anything else I've missed?
No, I think most of that stuff is, I think we were trending towards. No big surprises in there.
Right. Yep. Just want to mention now that it is confirmed,
Yep.
we can pull the trigger there. So, all right. I guess you have a little more interest in Mixon than I do. I really like the guy. I mean, I just think he's super talented, but I still worry about this spot. I guess I don't. You know what my thing is, Ben? I don't see it as a ceiling spot. I think it's one of these games where he could have decent numbers, but I don't know if he puts up that monster game that you would need at this price tag when he's so closely priced to a lot of other good running backs.
That's a good point. You know what he really feels like, and I use this term a lot, is a fringe cash play. He's not going to be on my cash team, but he has the makings, because I really do think he totals over 100 total yards. Maybe he finds the end zone. He's not going to kill you, but I agree. For him to get 25 plus, it's a tough ask in this spot, and that does make it tough in big field tournaments.
That's kind of where I'm at as well. And then with the passing game, I just don't really know if I have any desire in going there.
Nope. I'm not going to try to predict, Jeff, he was playing massive catch up last week. Yeah. I don't know what to expect here. And it's tough to target AJ Green coming off injury.
Now, what about on the other side? You've got Manny Sanders against a Cincinnati. Gus Edwards is playing as expected, by the way. And Aqib Talib is starting, which we will get to. That does make a difference. Okay, so on the Denver side of the ball, I mean, Case Keenum's not good. We all know that. But at the same time, this Cincinnati pass defense is downright heinous, man. This is a bad pass defense that continues to get worse. They're 26 in pass defense DVOA. They're 28th in run defense DVOA, according to Football Outsiders. And if you've watched them at all lately, you know that that's accurate. Actually, I'm surprised they're not worse. When it comes to guys like Philip Lindsay, who I actually think is very reasonably priced, and Manny Sanders, I do have interest in this Denver team.
Yeah, Denver's got some weapons here. Philip Lindsay's a guy who I think they're starting to turn over the backfield to him, kind of like what Carry-On we saw with the Lions. It was he's starting to take more and more. He's producing every time he gets the chance. So I don't mind going there. Obviously, Manny Sanders is going to be busy. And then there's two, I don't want to say sneaky, but the other options, obviously, Courtland Sutton, I think we both, I don't know if you've given up hope. I haven't. He's a big target. Eventually, he's going to put together a game. And Demaryius being out is going to give him, he's been gone and he's going to get those targets. Now Hireman's gone. If you want to completely punt tight end, I get it. Matt Lacoste, 2,500. It can make your lineup, the rest of your lineup, great. And you're hoping he gives you 10 and you move on with
touchdown or bust as well. I'd rather do that than Cameron Brate. I'm serious.
Yeah, well, at least he's in a price point that's different. Like 2,500, You're not getting many guys that even have a remote chance to see 5-6 targets.
Right. We're getting him for free, and he's pretty much like similar to Brate. You'll need a touchdown from him, but you also are going to need one from Brate.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I did use him on some teams where I really wanted to be aggressive at, say, running back and take, Gurley and Saquon or something like that. So yeah, I think those guys are in target. I didn't really get to Keenum as an overall stack with the Broncos, but I definitely have pieces of their offense.
Right. Yeah. And to be clear, I don't really have any Matt Lacoste. I'm just saying that if I was going to punt or if I was going to go to a cheaper guy, give me him over Brate, because with Brate, it's unless he scores 2 touchdowns, I'm not too worried about it. Put it that way. But I like Philip Lindsay here. I like Sanders here. I don't really see how you couldn't like Sanders. It's a very solid spot for him. And you know what? You're right. With Courtland Sutton, it's been ugly. But now Jeff Howerman, I struggle on that one, man. Say it for me.
Hireman? I hope
Hireman. But we'll go with Hireman.
That's how I say it.
Usually I'm a stickler for pronunciation, but that one just doesn't roll off the tongue. I think you're right, though, with Sutton. Eventually, he's going to have a game. Eventually, there's going to be a 2-touchdown game because he can score. He can get it done. But I also am with you in the sense that I don't see the need to go to Keenum here. It's very much like if I'm playing Odell Beckham and Shepard or Odell and Barkley. I'm not playing Eli, although I will play a few guys on the Giants. Not today, but in general. You know what I mean? All right. let's keep it going here. And again, hit us up on chat or Slack or YouTube with any questions if you think we missed something. Detroit and the LA Rams. Here's a fun one, man. Matthew Stafford in a game with a 54-point total. They are 10.5-point dogs. They have a 22-point total, implied total. Rams are around 32. Do you think this could be a game where Stafford at a dirt cheap price tag can bounce back from an atrociously putrid season that he's had?
Normally I would say it's funny. This is a situation where normally I would say Stafford's one of my top QBs. I like everything about this. He has been so bad for a while now that I'm honestly not all the way back. I have a
and
little.
Aqib Talib is back in the lineup.
Yeah, and that is a factor. So the Rams are getting healthier. Stafford, obviously, he's going to have to throw. Galladay is going to be busy. Riddick, whoever else, Ellington, you want to throw out there, but they're so devoid of weapons, and Stafford just hasn't been producing. So I get it if you want to go there. Personally, as I said many times, I'm paying the extra $200 for Matt Ryan. The Lions, obviously, Kenny Galladay is going to be popular and for good reason. But other than that, I don't have a ton of exposure.
I will say your Matt Ryan play makes sense because of how dirt cheap he is. And that's why people were asking me. I did the DraftKings sweat show on Thursday. Like, what about Chase Daniels at the price point? And I mentioned the point that you've been talking about all season long. Quarterback pricing is so flat that why even bother?
You're not getting a huge discount. It's
right.
It used to be, I could play Matt Ryan or take a $3,000 discount and play Driscoll or Chase Daniel. Now it's hundreds of dollars. I see no reason to try to reach.
Exactly. Yeah. The discount used to get you Julio Jones from Kenny Stills or something.
Yeah.
Now, or Deshaun Jackson. Now it doesn't get you much at all. So I just don't see that being a factor. I will say though, with Aqib Talib being back, I do think it takes a lot of shine off of Kenny Galladay. Even though I still expect him to see some targets, I would have liked it a whole lot more if Talib was not active here.
Definitely a concern. I'm still going to use him in cash. I think you should do that because of the target should be there. Fair. In tournaments, though, I'm with you, and there's a multitude of guys in that same range. Obviously, there's so many games. I may look to unload a couple, whether it's, Sanders is going to be a staple too, but you got guys right above him, both Woods and Cooks, who, you can't go wrong with the Rams' weapons in this game for sure.
I'm Authentic says Talib's old ass versus Galladay. Give me a 6'4" receiver all day. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fair take. Galladay's really good, got great hands, good speed. I love the kid. But my point is I would have liked this matchup a whole lot better had Talib not been in the lineup and this Rams defense continued just be terrible. So what I'm saying is while I still like Galladay, it does take some shine off of him that I would have liked before. I'm also going to throw out another guy for you, Ben. I think Theo Riddick can have himself a game here.
Okay.
And here's why. You have a player who, since Golden Tate was shipped away to Philly, Theo Riddick has legitimately been used as a receiver at times, right? He has target counts of 8, 7, 6, and 7, reception counts of 7, 6, 5, and 7. So he's catching almost every pass thrown his way. At this price, in a full PPR format, a guy that can give you 7 receptions, maybe 60 yards, and if he scores, right? Let's just say he scores. He's only scored what? He doesn't have a touchdown on the season. So he's just due. I hate to say due, but like somebody that's getting as many looks as he is eventually has to score. If he gives you 7 for 50 and a touchdown at 4,700, you're in business, man. And we've seen teams that fall behind that have quality pass catching running backs, whether it be like Oakland and Jalen Richard to several other teams this year. We've seen them target them on these dump off passes, just kind of as safety valves, especially if they're getting pressure to the quarterback. And Matt Stafford has struggled to stay on his feet lately. So I do think Theo Riddick is a very interesting play here that I don't really hear anybody talking about. Wanted to get him out there.
I think that's a good call, especially if you think that, again, I'm not saying, I don't think either of us are saying that Galladay is now going to be shut down.
No, of course not.
Maybe some of the targets roll to an easier time for Stafford, especially if he's getting heat. Riddick could pick up a couple. Both of those guys are going to be involved pretty much regardless of game script.
Agreed. And 7, 8, 9 targets is enough for me at that price point to consider him.
Yep.
That's where I'm going with it. And in a game where they're almost certainly going to have to play from behind.
Yeah, you would
give me your, you would think so. Yeah. Give me your take on the Rams. They have the second highest implied total on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, Woods and Cooks, I get that question every week. It's flip a coin. They're both good targets. They're gonna one of them is gonna draw Slay. I imagine both of them at times will get him. Honestly,
he's so fast. Did you see him chase down DJ Moore the other week? It was amazing.
He's quite a player. So we'll see what they do with him. Gurley to me is the interesting guy in the sense that Christian McCaffrey is on fire. Saquon is significantly cheaper. Gurley is coming off a pseudo injury on the Monday night game, and then he had a bye. Snacks Harrison has bolstered the run defense. Having said all that, I'm going back to Gurley. I think you get an ownership discount, and this is a guy who was the poster boy before a couple weeks ago of just producing 30 basically at will.
Yep.
I don't worry that they just run him up the middle, and that could be a challenge. They will get him in space. They will get him on the edge. I expect a big game, just like clockwork and what we had seen. So I'm trying to get Gurley where I can.
I like that. You know, people love the flavor of the week. Christian McCaffrey has been great all year long, but he's definitely more appealing to most people to at least to the field right now than Gurley is. So I'm with you there. And with Cooks and Wood, you're absolutely right. It's flip a coin, whichever one of these guys happens to put up the big numbers. Well, I guess we'll find out because I guess. And then we'll move on because we don't have a ton of time here. Just from a matchup standpoint, I'm assuming that Slay is going to see more Cooks. Slay and Cooks both lined up on the left side 54% of the time this year. So if you're looking to avoid Cooks, or if you're looking to avoid Slay a little bit, because I think he's going to see a little bit of both, Robert Woods is probably the guy here. So that I like Woods a little bit more than Cooks. So if that's any bit of a I'm going to differentiate. Jeez.
Okay. Fair enough.
Couldn't get that word out, man. I started getting flustered.
Times are tough. 13 games. That's what happens.
Times are tough. Yeah. I know. I'm trying to get through this, man. It's difficult. Let's talk about the Packers and the Cardinals. You got a monster spread in this game, to no one's surprise. Packers heavy favorites at home. They are 13.5-point favorites. Only a 41-point total, though. And, I mean, honestly, Rodgers just hasn't looked like himself this year. Devontae Adams is probably going to see a whole lot of Patrick Peterson, or at least you would think. So I think here the one spot that I go to the most is going to be my man. Been on this guy all year long, and he's finally paying dividends, Aaron Jones. I know he's more expensive, but he's getting the workload, and he's involved in the passing game. Basically, Jamal Williams is completely phased out of the offense right now.
Yep. Yeah, this is a game we can save a little time with because I have Aaron Jones, and that's basically it. You want to pay for Davante Adams? Sure, it's just not ideal, and they should control this game on the ground. I didn't take too many risks on the Arizona side, so I like Aaron Jones for cash, and that's about it.
Nothing on David Johnson?
You know, of course he's in play because he's very talented, but we've talked about pretty much all the guys up there, whether it's Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, Gurley, Mixon, Aaron Jones. There's a lot of guys to choose from, so he's on a sliver of my teams. He's kind of in the Mixon bucket where I used him a bit, but didn't make it a priority to get him this week.
I am with you there, sir. I am with you there, especially because his prices come up. You have to price point is everything here when you have so many good running backs on the slate.
Absolutely. It's hard to, there's so many of them, price point and ownership. And that's, again, with Gurley and Christian McCaffrey. It's little things like that you can try to do because all in all, it's a given that all these guys are talented enough to have a huge game if they get going.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, just throwing this in our Slack chat right now. Ben and I will answer all the questions in Slack after the show ends, but we want to do our best to get through this. So we'll hit you with everything. Just tag us in there, and we will answer everything after chat. I'll go back and find them. Houston and Cleveland, Ben. It's good. We could get through that last one quick. Pretty much Aaron Jones is the guy for both of us. He's just been really phenomenal. But let's talk about Houston and Cleveland here. This game's in Houston. They are 5-point favorites, 47.5-point total. Nick Chubb's price tag has now gone from 36 to 47 to 45 to 55 to 63 to 7K. I'm not on him this week only because I think this is a tough matchup. I still think he gets the work, which I care about. I like the heavy workload, but I think they see a little touchdown regression here. I don't expect him to keep getting touchdowns through the air when you have a guy like Duke Johnson. I think if there's a week to kind of pump the brakes a little bit for me on Chubb, it's going to be this week.
Yeah, I have none. Full disclosure, I haven't been on him, and I truly think I've been getting burned a little unnecessarily. He's like you said, he's made some fine catches. Certainly finding the end zone every chance he has. The price is going up. The ownership isn't going away, and this is a tough matchup. I like the Texans in this game. I have Texans defense in a lot of spots. Think that's somewhat sneaky. I think they put heat on Baker, and it's not to say that you can't target. I have a little Njoku on that side, but I'm much more on the Texan side of the ball in this game.
Yep. Also, one more thing, just backpedaling a second. There was some snow at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, so maybe it doesn't affect Rodgers, but in a game where you're certainly going to see it make Josh Rosen even worse than he's been this year, it just means more of Aaron Jones for me. So anyway, what are you doing with this game? Do you have any interest? Because Cleveland's offense with Freddie Kitchens calling the plays has looked a lot better recently, but it is. I don't think we should overlook. This is a tough matchup. It is a Houston defense that has been impressive this season. They rank second in run defense DVOA. Top half of the league in pass defense. What are you doing with the rest of this game?
Yeah, they're a good unit. I think Watt is going to play, which will help. I like that side of the ball, though. I like Deshaun Watson. I think he's getting a little healthier. He's been moving. He's got some rushing upside. You got Demaryius Thomas is going to bolster that offense. We saw him find the end zone a couple times. Hopkins, of course, there. So I actually used him a little against the grain. I definitely have some passing stacks with the Texans in this game, and hopefully they can get out and get moving. Not as much Lamar Miller for me.
Either.
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, Landry. No real interest in Landry here.
No.
Njoku is one guy that I do have interest in because if there's one spot where Houston has struggled, they have struggled with tight ends. I could see this being a game where a low-owned David Njoku puts up some solid numbers. So that is someone I have some interest in. Not saying you have to play the guy, but Houston's allowed the fourth most yards this season to opposing tight ends. And they rank, I think, 31st, only better than Oakland in DVOA against them. So I like this as a bounce back spot for it. Well, he had a good game last week. He had been terrible, but I think it's where he was carried into the end zone. By the way,
yep.
I think this is a good spot for Njoku. But aside from that, I'm not there. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins can always give you decent numbers, but I'm not prioritizing him. Anything else for you here?
No, not really. Like I said, I'm heavier on the Houston side across the board.
All right, fair enough. Jacksonville, Indianapolis. Jalen Ramsey is active, by the way, so that is some important news. But I'm not sure if he even has any intentions of trying. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's looked bad, but what are you going to do? He's still looked decent compared to the rest of the defense. 46-point total. Colts are 4-point favorites here in Jacksonville. Where are we going here, if anywhere?
Not going there. It's a game, 13 games. You can't have them all. I think I can get by at this one. Jags are a mystery. Before the Spencer Ware news broke, and I still think if you want to take a stab with Yeldon or Carlos Hyde, I get it. It's just very hard to determine what's what. Obviously, if the Jags fall behind, more Yeldon. I think Hyde gets cracks on the ground. It's just, will he do anything, or is he going to get 12 carries for 36 yards? That's really it. I'm not messing around with Cody Kessler or the receivers. Then on the other side, obviously Andrew Luck is just rolling. There's a bunch of quarterbacks. He's in play for sure. Ebron is the only tight end left. I'm shorting him. I have more Njoku and Olsen, but he's going to get looks. He hadn't been playing a ton of snaps, and he was still finding the end zone a bunch. So I can't blame anyone for going there.
Yes, this is true. I'm not going to be playing Hilton this week.
No.
I love the guy. I was on Hilton each of the last 2 weeks. I'll take that and run. Put it that way. I don't mind jumping off here. even though I think he can have a decent game. Look, he's significantly been better at home for his career, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if they feature a lot of the run game here. Marlon Mack is active. When it comes to Ebron, though, look, whenever Jack Doyle is out, I'm going to consider him. I'm probably going to play him, and he'll probably let me down. But he has just been an absolute touchdown machine. He has 11 receiving touchdowns and, yes, a rushing touchdown on the season. How chalky do you think Ebron's going to be?
Tight end is so just ugly. I think he gets up there. Not crazy, but I would expect ownership in the teens on a guy like that. What do you think?
Yeah, he's got to be up there. He has to be. People were playing him when Doyle was healthy, so I don't see why they wouldn't play him now, right?
That's what I'm saying. He was that was an absurd run. He was getting like 20 snaps, and he would have 3 targets, 3 touchdowns. Now he's going to have a big snap boost, so it's hard to not go there in some spots.
Right. What about the Jags run game?
It's tough. I think it's game script dependent, and you're going to have to guess right because if they can get the lead, Hyde's going to get cracks. He's going to take on more volume. But if they fall behind, Yeldon's going to rack up the catches. So if you wanted to roll the dice against Spencer Ware, again, I'm not opposed to that, but it's very risky. You got to get the game right twice. You got to pick the right one, and then they have to be effective.
You mean if you want to roll the dice on Carlos Hyde?
Yeah, either of them to me. I think there's ways they're phased out depending.
You said Spencer. You said Spencer Ware. I wasn't sure what you.
Oh no, I just mean they're all in that same price range. So if you want to,
got it.
Stand against Ware with someone like Hyde, but there's a lot of risk there.
There is, and this game could so easily get away from both of them depending on how it goes. And we know that there isn't one of them that's just going to be involved the whole game, no matter what. Like Yeldon's gonna be the passing down back. Like it's just gonna happen. So, yeah, to me, they're really just GPP darts, and it is a good matchup. It's not a great Indy defense. They don't concern me here at all, but it's more so just because Indy's allowing the second most yards per game to running backs in the passing game. It is a good spot. I'll tell you I'll take a stand. Yeldon is my guy over Carlos Hyde. If I'm going with one of them, it is going to be Yeldon over Hyde, even though he's a little bit more expensive. So there you go. That's where I'm at. Tennessee and New York Jets, Ben. Here's another exciting game. Tennessee, and I'm just going to toss this over your way. First of all, 40.5 point total, very low. The Titans are 10.5 point favorites here at home. Interesting defense play here as well against the Jets. But they've been so hit or miss on offense. It's crazy this year.
Yeah, I don't feel confident with them at all. I have a little of their defense. Corey Davis, I have some of. I think the price justifies taking some stabs. But all in all, it's tough to roster guys from a game where I think the game plan for the Titans is control the clock, salt the game away, honestly, from the start. If they're effective, you're going to see them lean on the ground and just make this game ugly. Not chasing any Jets. So one of the worst games on the slate for me.
Yeah. I don't have much here. Dion Lewis has burned me in a bunch of straight games. This will probably be the game where he explodes.
I wanted to go to Mariota, but it just felt unnecessary because you're going to need the Jets to comply for him to have a real ceiling game.
Exactly. And if the Jets are absolutely terrible, there's also a chance that Derrick Henry vultures a couple touchdowns and a bunch of carries too. He's still there.
Absolutely. I think that's part of what the Titans want to do is lean on a guy like that in a game like this.
Absolutely. And we've seen them do it before, right? We saw them do it against the Patriots. Derrick Henry's 2 touchdowns. We've seen this a lot of times where they can actually get up. And that's what they do. So this game to me is just one where I'm not super enticed by. I mean, Corey Davis is cheap. I think his ceiling puts him in play, no question. But aside from that, it's a tough one to gauge. I don't have anything from the Jet side of the ball. Before we move on, yay or nay on Titans defense?
Yeah. They're part of my defense exposure.
Okay. Let's get to the one everyone's been waiting for. Kansas City in the black hole facing the Oakland Raiders. They have the highest implied total on the slate, 33.5 points. They're 14-point favorites with a 53-point total. It was 55 yesterday for what it's worth. What are your thoughts here, Spencer Ware? Obviously, he will be the chalkiest play on this entire slate.
Yep. So this changes the entire slate. It's changed a lot of what I wanted to do. In cash, you play Spencer Ware, so that's step one. In tournaments, there's no answer. He's going to be by far the most popular guy on the slate, in my opinion. I think we see really, really high ownership because he allows you to do a ton, and this couldn't be a better spot. I have plenty of GPP exposure. What I do in a situation like this, I don't let Spencer Ware define my slate. If he goes off for 30, I'll be okay. If he completely busts, I'll be okay. I'm coming in, I think, in line with the field. I have a healthy chunk of him, but that's because I think the field has a healthy stab of him. I don't think you go all in or fade him at this point. It just doesn't seem like the spot to make the stand with.
So you're looking to match the field.
That's what I want to do. I don't want I have when my whole philosophy, I have the Falcons way leverage. I want that to be my stand because if I get it right, I don't want to say, oh, I faded Spencer Ware with all those teams.
Right.
And that's not the stand. I want it to be where I feel most confident. I have no idea what they're going to use with Spencer Ware. It would seem to stand at 4K. He has a pretty effective game, but I'll take a healthy ownership and move on.
Yeah, and again, our ownership projections, you can find them on awesemo.com. Use the game plan show, all one word, to get a free week behind paywall, everything free. You can see them, but just to give you a sneak peek behind the scenes, Spencer Ware right now, obviously projected for the highest ownership of any player and by a wide margin. So in tournaments, I will also be matching the field, looking to match the field, but also not letting it kill me if he doesn't have a great game, because I still think it's possible that Ware doesn't. He isn't Kareem Hunt. Right, he's not Kareem Hunt, to be clear. He's good, he's fine. He's a very solid backup, but he's not locked in the 30 fantasy points. So,
not by any stretch.
Right. Obviously, we're playing him. Obviously, if you're playing cash, don't be stupid. Play him. But in tournaments, if you get away from it, you don't need to have 100%. If anyone from Oakland, you got guys like Aitman who saw 10 targets last week, 3 receptions for 16 yards. Maybe he can do something. But that would be it for me, and just a very low-end tournament punt. What about Hill and Kelsey?
Yeah, so they get a boot. Aitman's a guy I don't mind as a pure punt. The look should be there. Hill and Kelsey, I did bump them up a little because if Ware has a middling game, someone on Kansas City is going to get it done. So Tyreek is always that boom or bust. That's a slow Oakland secondary. I made room for him where I could, and then Travis Kelsey is the best tight end on the slate. If you have the money, go and get him. But, I mixed and matched. Again, the Chiefs are a team. I don't have a ton of Mahomes because he's so expensive. So in certain spots, I tried to get at least one of them on teams just to take a chunk of it. But I'm hoping they keep it within range and I can rely on the other games on this slate.
Here's one suggestion I would make to everybody. If you are not playing Spencer Ware in lineups, you very much want to consider getting either Kelsey or Hill or both into those lineups, because the Chiefs are going to score. They are going to score. There's no question. They have the highest implied total on this slate. They are 14-point favorites on the road against a terrible, terrible defense. A defense that ranks dead last in run defense, or I'm sorry, not dead last, 29th in pass defense and 30th in run defense. One way or another, the Chiefs are going to score. So in lineups where I don't have Ware, I will have undoubtedly some Hill and some Kelsey. I think that's something you need to consider in this slate. All right, we got to hurry it up here, but let's go Minnesota and New England. Live Before Lock is going to come up and hit on anything that we haven't gotten to, so don't you worry about that. Stefan Diggs said that his knee swelled overnight and he needs to test it pregame. So I don't know what's going on with him right now. And then I think Rhodes is still a game time decision. So what are you doing with this one here?
Yeah, it's a hard game to talk about because two giant things that affect not just those guys, infect that entire game are unknown.
Yeah, feeling big time if one of them is out. Yeah.
So exactly. We got to wait and see on that. From a macro level, I don't have a ton. You can look to someone like Gronk if you want to be sneaky. Josh Gordon is another guy that I took a couple stabs with. But again, if Xavier Rhodes is out, I'm going to move some things late in this slate with late swap to this. This is a 4 o'clock start. That's why you put your latest guy in the flex position. It's other than that, I don't have a ton of this game. It's raining up here. It may be a little sloppy. 13 games, can't get them all. I'm hoping this one goes under the total. That would help me a lot.
Yeah, agreed. Corey Randall says Laffy Ware was going to be the starter, but got hurt and Hunt took the job. I'm well aware. I know Hunt was supposed to be eased into the offense in his rookie season, but it still doesn't mean that they're the same player. What I'm saying is if you're not playing Ware, play some other guys on that team because the offense is so heavily concentrated, especially with Sammy Watkins out of the lineup. Chris Conley's not going to be the guy. That's all I'm saying. So obviously we like Ware, but we also could see it coming from two other areas, which are Hill and Kelsey. In this game, by the way, I'm just going to quickly, if Diggs is out, Thielen is a phenomenal play. If Diggs is in and Rhodes is in, I still also really like Thielen because I think Xavier Rhodes is going to see a whole lot of Stefon Diggs on the boundary. And that makes it even more, just as enticing to me. So that's a couple things that I think are worth considering. If Diggs is in and he's feeling Stephen Gilmore, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yep. That makes Thielen still interesting, right? So you have that. And then on the other side, what I wanted to say is if Rhodes is in, that would mean that I like Edelman more because you're going to have Xavier Rhodes handling a whole lot of Josh Gordon, exactly. Which would mean that Edelman in the middle of the field is going to be someone to target. Run games on both of these teams, I just don't have much interest. I think a healthy Sonny Michel is great, but I don't think you need to go there this week.
No, Burkhead's activated too. We'll wait and see how that muddies the waters.
Exactly. And apologies to the live before a lot, guys. We're on to the last game right now. We'll be out of here by 12:05. It's a lot of games. We're doing our best.
Yep.
Talk to me about Seattle and San Francisco.
I really don't have much on this game. This is a huge spread in Seattle. I think they just run it down their throat. So if you want to go to Carson, sure. But I expect a slow grind with Seattle controlling this clock. I'm not chasing any weapons, with Kittle. Pettis is very cheap if you want to go back there. But all in all, this is a game where Seattle's defense is the most expensive on the slate, and I think for good reason. They should control this game in all facets.
Agreed. All right, we got to get out of here. Josh and Chris are going to handle everything we missed. We will be back next week. Good luck in week 13. This is the game plan. We'll see you on Sunday.